Hello, everyone. I think we are all set now for our very first Q&A for the Sensitive and Soulful Self-Worth program. So thank you everyone for submitting the awesome questions. If you're able to watch us live, let me know. Just type a comment once you're here. And hello to everyone watching the replay. These will of course always be recorded, so there is never any pressure to attend live, especially because you are submitting your questions ahead of time. So it is all meant to be watched at your leisure. Yay. Hi, Caitlin. Happy to have you here. So awesome. Okay, we had some really good questions this week, and I'm excited to dive in. I also hope you guys are liking the course so far and getting a lot out of it and finding it supportive. Okay, so our first question, hi Jessica. First question comes from Jessica. So she asks, what are some suggestions to best protect your energy as an empath? So great question, big one for us as sensitive people. So my thoughts around this are, I always approach this, as with everything, from an empowered state. And so something that I think is really important is first being very intentional and with our energy and holding the mindset and the belief that we are responsible for our energy. So here's what I mean by that. I feel like a lot of times when in the HSP empath space, there's a lot of information and talk about oh my God, I need to protect my energy. Oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming to be an empath. Oh my gosh, everyone's energy and emotions are so big, right? There's a lot of that, which is true. Yes, we do feel things more easily. We do absorb things more easily. All of this is true. And I do think a lot of this messaging is very disempowering and plays into this belief that oh, because I'm an empath, because I'm sensitive, I'm just going to absorb everything. And I'm just at the whim of everyone else's emotions and moods. And I'm just nope, I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. So what I'm going to be sharing is coming from that mindset of we are in control of our own energy. We are responsible for our energy. There's this quote that I think Oprah had. I think it was over her dressing room or something like that, and it goes something please be responsible for the energy that you bring into this space. So starting with intentionality, we can of course never control what other people do with their energy, but we can be intentional about our energy. So I think that is first and foremost super important. So let's say you're going somewhere, whether it's to work or to a social gathering or to see your family. Take a few minutes to be intentional and get quiet with yourself and feel into what is the energy I want to bring to this situation. It can be, I want to feel grounded. I want to feel in my body. I want to feel connected to myself. I want to feel safe, right? Just being very intentional and mindful about the energy that you want to bring. I think intention is so important. And then, throughout the event or whatever you go to, trying to bring yourself back to what that intention was. Anytime you start to notice yourself maybe picking up on other people's moods and emotions. The other thing that I think is incredibly important is being so familiar with our energy. That's the other thing where I think it can get sticky and hard for us as empaths is sometimes we are such a culmination of the people around us. We get so used to everyone else's energy. We get so used to being out of our body and always trying to anticipate what other people need that we often don't even know what our energy feels like. What do we like? What is, what is true for us? And so that's another important piece. So to me, a huge suggestion I would have is have practices to get familiar with your unique energy. What are your beliefs? What are the things that you like and dislike? What are the what does it feel like to be you? And this, in order to do this, it just looks like taking some time to meditate, taking time to journal, being in your own energy. This is huge. This will also help with the intentionality piece. Because I think a lot of times we struggle with picking up other people's energy because we're just not familiar enough with our own. And we're often kind of holding on, maybe unconsciously holding on to this belief that oh, everyone's energy affects me, which is so real. I totally do it as well, and I have to check myself. So with that too, I would say part of it is checking in with your mindset and being really honest. Like, am I giving my power away to other people? Right? Like, am I letting their energy dictate my mood? And it's okay. Sometimes we're gonna have those times where somebody's just like has big energy and they're like super grumpy and it's like, whoa, it's overwhelming. And we can just witness that and be like, dang, okay, I felt that. And it's kind of like, okay, that is theirs. Returning back to myself as often as we can be conscious and return back to ourselves. That is huge. So some practical things that you can do as well are like, I don't know, for me, I just find like having anything that reminds me to be in my body when I'm around others is really huge. So sometimes it's like just like touching my arms, just like being like, okay, I am me, I'm right here. Or like really being aware of like my feet on the ground, or like what it feels like to be sitting in a chair, whatever, like anything I can do to like be in my body and like feel my body. I find that to be really helpful. Of course, there's the one that everyone always shares about, which is like the protective bubble, which is something you can do before you go somewhere. So like maybe you have a practice where you sit down, you're like, okay, what is my intention? What is the energy I'm going to bring? Imagine that bubble. And then imagine anyone's negative energy, big emotions, whatever, kind of bouncing off of you. Those are like my biggest suggestions. These are the things that I've found super helpful, but I think that the most important thing that we can do, in my opinion, is have that mindset and really deep connection with ourselves as to who we are and what our energy feels like, which is really what this whole course is meant to help you do. It's meant to help you feel so grounded and so connected to yourself that it's like, okay, other people are going to have their thing and I know who I am. I believe all of you got access to the HSP boundary bundle. I think that was a bonus that all of you got. So that should be in your Kajabi library as well. So there's a whole module or like training on energetic boundaries. There's a practice in there that's called Me, Not Me, which is just basically a practice of like, if you're sitting next to somebody, like let's say like your partner, you can practice like feeling your energy and like recognizing what's yours and what's theirs. So lots of thoughts on this. I hope it's helpful. Yay. And Jessica, what does it feel like to be you? Love this question. Yay, good. And thank you, Denise. I'm so happy you're loving the content. Awesome. So great question. Okay, your next question comes from Samantha, and she says, how do you deal with a very reactive friend / person in your life that triggers your nervous system and consistently crosses boundaries you put up to protect your peace? Oh yes, this is a big one. So my thoughts around this are, I believe our relationships in our lives should be something that enhance our lives, that are complementary. Like, it makes our life better. I just don't think that, I think life is too short to have relationships that completely drain us, that don't feel good, that make us feel stressed and on edge. Like, there's no perfect relationship, there's no perfect friendship. There's always going to be things to work through and conversations to be had and things like that. But I do think that, like, there comes a point where if you are feeling like edgy and stressed and somebody's like consistently disrespecting you, disrespecting your space, your boundaries, maybe emotionally dumping on you, whatever that looks like, it's time to assess that relationship and be honest with yourself and be like, okay, is this really serving me? Is this somebody that I actually feel good to have in my life? Because I think this also comes down to the whole self-worth conversation, which is obviously what this whole course is about. And when we keep people in our lives and allow them to treat us in a way that doesn't feel good, that feels like they are taking from us and taking, and like we feel like we have to do so much work just to like feel like comfortable and at peace around them. Like, we're really, to me, what we're doing then is kind of telling ourselves like, hey, your needs don't matter. Like, this is what you deserve. Like, you just need to put up with this. And I just don't think that that's how we deserve to be treated. So, something I talk about, I think I'm trying to remember what week we will be covering boundaries. I believe it's module 4. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be diving more into boundaries, which I think will be really helpful. But something I like to think about with boundaries are the way that we can teach people to treat us. And so what I mean by that is like we're really communicating our needs and what works for us in order for us to have, a friendship, a relationship that feels good and works. And so when you have communicated these things, when you've set these boundaries, and then reading the question here, like you said, this person is constantly crossing your boundaries, then to me it's like, okay, this person is not respecting your wishes and they are not reciprocating in a way that feels good. So to me, my thoughts are I would definitely have an honest conversation with this person and just really assess, like, hey, let them know, like, this is what works for me. These are my boundaries, and this is kind of what's continued to happen. It's not feeling good for me, like, and let them know what will happen if they continue to cross your boundary. Because if we have a boundary and then someone continuously crosses it over and over and over and over again, it really just kind of becomes meaningless. We're just kind of like running the same like hamster wheel over and over again. And so it's kind of like I don't want to say the word consequence, but it's like there has to be something that changes if they are not going to respect your wishes, if they're not going to treat you with respect and value your friendship, because you are worth having a reciprocal relationship with. You do not need to let someone else walk all over you or be rude or be disrespectful. Like, that is, you deserve better than that. And I think that sometimes we have these situations with people in our lives because it's really like an invitation for us to kind of up level, right? It's like, okay, here's a situation in my life that's really uncomfortable. There's this person that's like not respecting me, and I'm really nervous to have an honest conversation with them because I don't know how they're going to react. Like, that's really scary. But it's kind of like, okay, if we continue the same old way, if we continue to let them do the things that don't feel good, we already know how that story ends. We're resentful, we're annoyed, we're feeling burnt out. So it's maybe time to do things a different way. It's time to have that honest conversation. It's time to take a look in the mirror and say, how is this feeling for me? And the high self-worth road, the I value myself road, is the more uncomfortable road. It's the one where you are going to face discomfort and have hard conversations, but it's where you're going to grow so much in your self-confidence, right? It's that I have my own back energy that you are going to embody throughout the duration of this course. So those are my thoughts around that. Yeah, I know it's so tough. Also, like, I just want to like totally validate that. Like, it's so tough. It's so tough, but I think life is too short to not have reciprocal relationships. And I love what Jessica says here. I have no capacity for friends that don't feel me in some way the way I do them. Energy should be reciprocal. Agreed. Exactly. So I'm sending you lots of love. Also, I just know that this is a hard one. Okay, our next question comes from Jessica, and she says, how do you manage setting boundaries around workload / being okay with not checking off the to-do list? I find this so challenging. I don't really tend to overwork. I just feel like I'm always in a rush to get things done / feel like I'm always behind. So, oh my gosh, I feel this question in my soul. This is something I have absolutely struggled with. And my first thought around this is like, urgency and pressure and rushing and this need to like check everything off a to-do list. I think a lot of this is like a habit, and it's like it almost is like a thermostat set in our bodies, like in our nervous systems. Like, our nervous systems get set and like used to this level of like underlying stress and rushing and urgency, and oh my gosh, I need to get through my to-do list, and we actually get like a dopamine hit when we do check those things off of our to-do list. So just want to say that first is like, it's very somatic. It's understandable why we can sometimes feel addicted to this and have a hard time when we don't check everything off the to-do list because everything feels urgent. And so my response back to this is like, get quiet with yourself and feel into your body. Like, what does it feel like if you think about not completing everything on your to-do list? Like, what is that? What feelings arise in your body? What are the thoughts that are coming up? What are the fears? Like, what are these feelings and thoughts coming up for you? And just like write all of that out. For me, it's often been like, oh, I'm gonna fall behind. Oh, it's just gonna pile up. I'm never gonna get through all of this. It's just like very much an anxious, urgent feeling, and it's like this compulsive feeling. And so we have to learn how to teach our systems how to feel safe with going at our own pace and not feeling like everything is an emergency and everything is urgent. And so this is really a lot of working with the nervous system to be okay with that. So Yeah, it's really like retraining ourselves. It's training ourselves how to rest. It's training ourselves how to slow down. And it's so crazy because, or it's not crazy, it's so normal. Like it's so like so many people struggle with this, like myself included, majorly. Um, it can just feel so uncomfortable to rest and to like leave things undone. And so that is the work. The work is to go into that discomfort and teach yourself that it's okay. And we teach ourselves that it's okay and that it's safe through loving ourselves through it, through regulating our systems through it. So let's say that you leave like 3 of the items on your to-do list undone. You're tired, you're just like, I just can't do this. I'm done for the day. So what I would do is notice the feelings that are coming up. Maybe your chest feels tight, maybe you have racing thoughts, maybe you feel like, "Oh my gosh, no, I need to do this. I need to do this." Let those be there. Just let those be there. Maybe journal it out. And then I would encourage either doing a meditation, maybe doing some EFT tapping. You can Google, there's so many great free EFT tapping resources online. I also have one in the self-worth course, which is about overwhelm. I believe that one's already uploaded into this module. So it would be like tapping around that, just like doing what you can to help yourself release that anxiety and that fear. And that will teach you slowly over time, show yourself, okay, it's safe. It's safe to relax. It's safe to slow down. Because it really is just like a habit, and it's something that just becomes ingrained in our nervous systems. And we really have to heal our relationships with urgency, and we have to show ourselves that like it's okay to slow down. And so everything that I teach is really around like managing the discomfort of doing something new, managing the discomfort of slowing down, managing the discomfort of setting a boundary. And it's through these continued practiced experiences that we become more confident, that we show ourselves that it's okay and that we can survive it. So those are the main things. That's what I would say. And maybe another practice, like a practical thing you could do around the to-do list, is maybe you just have a boundary with yourself with how many items you're going to have on your to-do list. Maybe the to-do list is just too long, and it's like, if you're real with yourself, you're like, I'm just putting way too many things on this, and then I'm feeling disappointed every day because I can't get to them all. So maybe you just have like, instead of 6 or 10 things, you just have 3 things, and you just make it more bite-sized. Because again, for us as HSPs, we can feel really overwhelmed easily, and it can feel overwhelming to like see this whole list of things to do and all of it is undone. So maybe it's like being honest with yourself and doing less, and that can be a boundary that you hold with yourself as well. So yeah, definitely feel into that urgency and that desire to rush though, and kind of feel into what's behind that. And definitely with all of these questions, feel free to continue bringing them to the group as more things arise, because that's what this space is for you to really like be supported through all of this. Okay, next question comes from Jenny. She says, where in the module should we be by Wednesday? I want to stay on pace, but I also don't want to get too far ahead. So good question. So the calendar, the schedule that I like sent out to you guys, that's also in your course portal, and that you can click the link and it'll automatically go to your calendar. So that's like my recommended pace. So basically, by the first week, like I would say a module per week, if it's doable for you, if that feels good. So like, you would have maybe wanted to complete module 1 last week, and then by the end of this week, maybe complete module 2. But I also just don't want to put pressure on people, because I know we're all busy, but that's like kind of the recommended pace that I would go at. So that's what I would say, is just kind of loosely following that calendar as a guideline. And also you guys get access to this course forever. So it's like, if you have things come up, if you kind of fall behind, don't even worry about it, because you can catch up in these Q&As. I'm going to answer any questions, like no matter where you're at. And also next week is an integration week, meaning I'm not going to release a new module, because module 2 is quite comprehensive. There's a lot in there, so I wanted to give you some more space. So actually I should say this week and next week, feel free to like take your time on module 2. So yeah, I would just like follow that schedule. And then the last question here also comes from Jenny. And she says, so much has been resonating with me so far, and it is bringing up a lot of resentment from my childhood experiences that shaped my lack of self-worth. Do you have any advice on how to deal with process this resentment? Oh yeah, so that's a good question, and it's so real. Like, I remember having a similar question the first time I ran this course as well, because it's like awesome to have these realizations and we're like, oh my gosh, learning all of these things, and it just like things are clicking. But then it's like, oh wait, like that happened. Like that sucked. Like I'm frustrated. I'm mad. This feels unfair. Like there's a lot that can then be like drudged up from it. So my first suggestion would be really diving into this first lesson in module 2, which is the victimhood journey, because I think that is essential for us. Because when we recognize all of these things that happened in our lives that have then affected our self-worth, which has affected the way we navigate our lives, we can feel like really frustrated. We can really feel like, oh my gosh, blaming others, which is like totally legit, right? It's like all these things that happened to us as children, it wasn't our fault. We didn't have control over it. And now it impacts our life as adults. Like that's real. But in order for us to get to a place of feeling empowered and feeling like, okay, like I've got this, now I choose to do things my own way because I'm the adult, we have to move out of victimhood and into the empowered mindset of like, okay, this happened to me, now how am I going to care for it? So obviously part of getting from victimhood to empowered means dealing with that resentment that's coming up and clearing it. So again, I'm like a big EFT tapping fan, and there's actually an incredible video on YouTube for EFT tapping for resentment. And I will totally, I'm like, this is making me want to record one myself. But honestly, I've used this one that's online personally, and I found it so helpful. So it's what I'm going to recommend to you. Is go to YouTube, type in Brad Yates resentment. There's a great video on that, and you can just tap through and just start to release that resentment that's coming up for you. And it really is such a somatic experience where you can feel like, oh, like you're just kind of releasing some of it. So that is something I would suggest. I would also suggest doing some journaling around it. So the journal prompts in that victimhood module, I'm trying to remember, now I need to go back and look at that and double check, but I believe that we talked about that there, about like, okay, how can I get to a place of moving through these things that happen to me and go from feeling so angry and frustrated to moving toward forgiveness? Because at the end of the day, that is what we want to move toward, is forgiveness. And that doesn't mean that we're saying it's okay. That does not mean that we're letting people off the hook, but we are letting ourselves off the hook. Because when we are holding on to it, when we're holding on to it and we're feeling resentful and we're feeling angry toward the other person, we're really just hurting ourselves, right? We're really just like, like holding on to this. It's like that saying that goes like, staying angry at someone is like drinking, or I don't know, what is it? Something about you drinking poison and wishing bad on them or something like that. So we're only hurting ourselves. And so yeah, I would encourage just like moving through that module, doing some journaling around it, doing some tapping around it, and just seeing what comes up. What are the thoughts and feelings? And how can you now love yourself better through it? How can you care for yourself in an empowered way? So those are my thoughts around that. I know that is just like so much that comes up. And so like I said, with all of these questions, like feel free to pop in and reach out about anything that's coming up so I can continue to support you through it. But I'm just glad that everyone is just being so open to doing this work, to facing the things, to just being honest about all of it. And yeah, I'll continue to share resources that in addition to the course that I think would be supportive based on the questions you guys ask. So thank you so much for this. Loved these questions, so thoughtful. We will have, like I said, next week is an integration week, but we will have another Q&A next week as well, next Wednesday. So we'll have another post ready for you to post all of your questions, and let me know if there's any other way I can support you. And I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.